Good morning. Today is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. My name is Terry Morgan, and we are here to practice Wudang Qigong. We are here to talk about a little bit and to practice a little bit from the student's perspective. The idea for this class, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but the idea for this class is that I'm going to present from the student's perspective how to learn, how to assess what you're learning, how to answer some of the questions that we need to ask so that we understand clearly what it is we're doing, what it is we're learning, and how we're learning. Now, I'm going to take a half a break here. I'm going to get a sip of coffee here. All right. I have several things that I intend to cover this morning. I had separated some of what I've been doing into 3 different classes. This is what we're starting now. This is the first class in this new series. This class is focused on how to study and how to learn. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing when we first start. We're going to talk a little bit about how we develop the skills that we need, how we begin to understand what it is that we're doing and what it is we're practicing. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach pretty much the same class. I'm going to cover the first movement in Wudang Qigong, but from the teacher's perspective, how to teach it. What needs to be there for the student to start learning? How do we help someone who doesn't know develop those skills? And then finally on Sunday, and it won't necessarily be every Sunday, but it will be this coming Sunday, I'm going to teach a martial arts philosophy class. I taught a couple of, but this is going to be a series. And I'm going to focus on those things that we pay attention to in practice and in developing ourselves and our character. There are all sorts of things that we learn that we don't want to do. We're learning martial arts. There's a lot of things we learn we don't want to do. I don't want to do that. There are things that we do want to practice. We do want to be able to do. That judgment, and I shouldn't do this, I should do this, is part of what we learn. It's part of how we develop our skills. It's part of how we build those skills and develop our practice. So as I'm trying to bring together all of the sessions that I've already taught on the first set in Wudang Qigong, and all of the sets, in fact, the idea of how do we start learning? Where do we start? If I imagine that this is an open facility and not my private studio, someone could walk in and say, I want to learn this Qigong stuff. What's this Qigong? Qigong? Gong? Qigong? Do I have to hit something with it? Is it a gong? What's this Qigong? No, it's Qigong. No, I can't say that. Well, there is part of that which is because it's Chinese, it's Mandarin. It's not English. And that gives a lot of people at the very beginning, just that just pronouncing the word, pronouncing the name of the exercise, Qigong, gives a lot of people trouble. I had trouble with it. I thought it was Qigong for a long time. I did. And then I learned Mandarin, and no, it's not. It's not. That ability to distinguish is one of the things that the student has to begin to learn right away. That's it's something that we develop over time, but it's also something that we can recognize almost immediately. That pronunciation. It's not Mandarin. Deciding that it's not Mandarin, my being able to do that, comes out of my own learning and my own practice. That's the second thing. When we start, what is it that I'm going to learn? What do I want to learn? What am I going to pursue? Which art? What might I look at? That's one question. Second question, and very important question, who's the teacher? Who's the teacher? How did that person learn? Did that person learn from a video class? I mean, I want people to learn from my classes, but I'm not going to endorse anybody that just learned from a video. You're going to have to come and visit with me. Right? And you're going to have to visit with me for more than a couple of days, too. That idea that we learn from a teacher and we develop our skills under the guidance of a teacher, not from a video, not from a couple of books, not from the pictures, we have to actually do something. What did you do? That's the question. So, student walks in. What can I learn here? Right? What are the possibilities? Student walks in. I want to learn this Qigong stuff. I want to learn the Tai Chi. I want to learn the Pakwa. Different pronunciation. Sometimes it's just absolutely a mistake. Sometimes it's a difference in dialect. It's a difference in the way that the person encountered that particular term, that particular art. What are we doing? What qualifies you to teach? So, we'll go back to that video then. I learned from a video. No, I didn't. I didn't. I learned many things from videos, but I did not learn from video. I learned from people. And that practice and study, it goes back a bit. My first teacher in Tai Chi, the gentleman that taught me Yang style Tai Chi, was Wang Wei. I have a certificate from him right here in the middle. He is no longer with us. I have pictures. I have a few things. There are folks who are still around who know me from that time and understand that he was the person that I studied with. I had practiced dance, ballet at the university level. I learned. I got reasonably good at it. And then I started Tai Chi, and I got reasonably good at it. I took first place at the very first United States National Chinese Martial Arts Competition in 1989 out of 55 people. I have certificates, I have trophies, I have medals. That recognition by other teachers, by other people who know what I was doing, who looked at what I was doing and said, yeah, she's pretty good. That matters. That I got up and did that matters. So if you're asking, who's your teacher? My teacher's this video thing over here. No. No. All right? My Yang style teacher was Wang Wenlin. I studied briefly with several other teachers. Not several, 3. Briefly. And then I met Liu Zhang. I went to China and I was staying in Zhengzhou. Got up early. It's winter, Spring Festival, 1990. 91, Spring Festival. I got up early and my friend and I went to People's Park in Zhengzhou. Renmin Gongyang. There's People's Park in many cities in China. This one was in Zhengzhou. And we walked. It was early morning and it was cold. It was before 6. We had to get there before they started taking tickets at the gate. So we got there and started walking around, and there was people practicing ballroom dancing over here. Music was going on. 6 o'clock in the morning. People practicing badminton, table tennis. Lots and lots of martial arts. Several groups of people practicing Chen style Tai Chi. My friend said, hey, Chen style Tai Chi. Yeah, I see it. And there was a group practicing Yang style Tai Chi. All right. So I want to keep walking. And we came around this curve in the sidewalk, and there was a group of people practicing Xingyi. I already knew what it was. I'd been studying. I had never seen any group practice. I'd met a couple of people who knew a little bit of Xingyi, but very few. There's a whole class. I wanted to stop and watch. And one of the students came over, and the teacher came over, and my friend would interpret. And the teacher asked me, he said, did you have an interest in learning Tai Chi? And I said, well, yeah, I do. I studied Yang style. And he said, well, asked me, show me something. So I did. And one of the students said something about, he thought maybe I'd study for a year or so. And the teacher said, no, more than that. And we had another conversation, and he found out that I had already won the first place title in the U.S. And he asked if I wanted to learn Wudang Tai Chi. And I said yes. And he started teaching. And for almost 30 years, we kept in touch. I went back and forth. He came here. I studied with him. I asked questions. Sometimes I got a straight answer. Sometimes I had to be there to actually do something to show him what the question was. Other times it was up to me. Other times it was do it again. I needed to find that for myself. It wasn't something that he could tell me. So there were things that he could tell me. There was lots of things that he could correct me for. And there were some things I just had to practice, because that development that comes from practice is what we want. That immediate understanding, yes, this is correct, no, this is not, this is what we should do, this is what we shouldn't, that's good. We have to have that. That's the beginning. That's where we start. That's not where we finish. That part of understanding that as we develop the skills, we need to look at what it is we're developing. What are we doing? What are we actually doing? Qigong. Qigong. Hey, that Qigong stuff, what's that? It means breath work. So, breath exercises. So, all we do is breathe? Yeah, that's all you do. Breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, so breathe. Okay, breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in and out real quick. Go. Not comfortable. Okay, and I pull my breath all the way up here into my shoulders. Way up here on top of my chest. Not where it should be. Right? Not where it should be. It should be here. What do you mean it should be here? Think about a small mammal, cat, dog, rabbit. When they breathe, the whole body breathes. When they're relaxed, the whole body breathes. The whole thing, the whole animal moves. It's not just a little part of here, right? We develop as we develop, as we grow, we develop certain habits that affect how we move. They affect how we breathe. If I'm slumped over like this all the time, my diaphragm right here is never going to open properly. I have to be up here so that this has room to move. That little bit of recognition, that little bit of understanding, this needs to be this so you can do this, is part of how we start. That's where we start learning. I just breathe in and out, my hands go up and down, and I do whatever. No. As we're breathing, there are multiple things going on inside. There are all sorts of things that we should pay attention to, and all sorts of things that we shouldn't pay attention to, particularly during practice. In developing the skills that we're working, the physical skills is where we start. As we develop the physical skills, we gradually become able to develop the internal skills. The greater the understanding we have of what we're doing physically, the easier it is to develop what we know and bring that into our physical practice. That cycle of development, I learn a little bit and I learn a little bit more and I practice it and I learn a little bit more and I learn a little bit more and then I practice it, is how we gain those skills. Retaining the skills, part of that is practice and part of that is actually developed as we develop our practice. We develop the ability to retain what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And we develop the ability to analyze it. It's a couple of different words there, but analyze is a good word. For what is correct and what is not. If you don't learn what is correct, how can you ever do the exercise? If you just come to class and follow me, say, okay, she knows what she's doing, I'm going to follow her. Okay, good. That's good. This is good. But if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, you won't ever be able to do it. Your understanding will be incomplete. Developing a complete understanding gives you the ability to develop the skills. It's not, I know this one thing, I'm an expert now. One of the very first things that we have to learn, and you're seeing me do this right now in this session, just being able to stand there. So standing, being relaxed, being well placed and well centered over your feet, over your legs, so that you're not off balance, that you're not jittery, that you're not moving unless you decide you want to move, that you're comfortable. Being able to do that is the first step. That's one of the things that we have to learn. I've covered basic standing and how we get here many, many times in the series, particularly for Tai Chi, because this is one of the things that we do. There's a set that I do at the beginning that is focused on the large heavenly circle, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So with the feet about shoulder width apart, the feet are flat on the floor, the toes grip just a little bit, the knees are bent slightly. The hips drop down, pull up through the spine, pull up through the back of the neck, pull up through the crown of the head. Hands are at your sides, down and relaxed. Shoulders are down. Smile. That smile gives you a sense of relaxation. Whether you're relaxed or not, it gives you a sense of relaxation. And that matters. For the first set in Wudang Qigong, ladies, right hand on the outside, gentlemen, left hand on the outside. Right? I asked my teacher why, and he said, that's what my teacher told me. And I said, okay. So there is a general difference between yin and yang. We work with that. Yang is the masculine, yin is the feminine. They both combine and work together. So they're always connected and they're always distinct. Ladies, right hand on the outside, gentlemen, left hand on the outside. Breathe in. Both hands come up to the middle Tantien, the center of the chest. Turn over, press down to the lower Tantien. Bend the knees just a little bit, and then turn over. The lower Tantien just a little below the navel, and breathe in again. Pull up. Breathe out. Press down. Coordinate the movement between the hands rising and the legs straightening, the hands lowering and the knees bending. Breathe in as you pull up, and breathe out as you sink down. And breathe in again. Each time, the connections between the movement and the breath should become stronger, as well as more resilient, so that strength is flexible. Hands open, palms turn over, press down along both sides, pull up through the crown of the head, raise the heels slightly, lower the heels, and lower the hands. Relax, pull up, and breathe. This very first set in Wudang Qigong gives us the foundation for every other set. It gives us the foundation for all sorts of internal practice that I haven't talked about in this session just yet. In this set, lower Tantien, middle Tantien. As we're moving, the circulation through the small heavenly circle from the lower Tantien down, back, up the back, and down the front to the Renjong here. From the Renjong, return to the lower Tantien. This connection between the Renmai and the Dumai up the back, Renmai in the front, is the small heavenly circle. We want to use that in practice. We also want to use the tiny heavenly circle in the lower Tantien. Same kind of movement, but much smaller. And we also want to use the large heavenly circle from the heels all the way up through the whole body. Each of those combines in the sets so that we're using all of that plus more. 2 times. Ladies, right hand on the outside. Gentlemen, left hand on the outside. Breathe in. Focus on pulling up through the back and down the front. Connect and breathe in. Pull up the back and breathe out, down the front. Breathe in one more time. Hands separate. Press down and pull up. Stay there. Breathe in. And breathe out. Notice that just now, there wasn't any particular thing outwardly that you could tell that I was doing something different, that I was doing anything really other than just move my hands and breathing out my knees. I did quite a lot. That sense of what we're doing inside is fundamental for all of the internal arts. And it's something that in practice, in beginning practice especially, what is she talking about? This chi inside, and what is this channel, and what is that meridian thing, and connect to what, and what is, I went through that. I did. I went through that. As I learned one by one. Lower Tantien, middle Tantien, upper Tantien. Stop there. That's all I'm paying attention to today. I'm only gonna. That's it. I'll get the other ones next time. That idea. 下丹田、中丹田、上丹田、拜回、任买、任中、闹功，这是什么事？ What is she talking about? What is he talking about? I had no idea when I very first started. I learned. And I made decisions along the way about what I was going to pay attention to and who I was going to pay attention to, because I decided that I wanted to learn something that was authentic, not something that someone invented 3 weeks ago. I like the tradition, the idea that certain forms have been developed and taught for at least a couple of generations. Yang style Tai Chi is relatively new. Some of the things that I've learned from Shaolin are not. They've been around for a while. So that, again, the perspective, when you start learning, I'm going to wrap this up here. When you start learning, Just walk in the door. What are you going to study? It's your study. It's not mine. It's yours. What I can teach, right, is not the same as what my teachers could teach. Huang Weilun originally taught with limited dialogue, limited language. His first language was Cantonese. He developed his English skills quite well, but his first language was Cantonese. Professor Liu had Mandarin as his first language. He did not spend enough time in the U.S. to develop his English skills to a good level. I spent, and there was some benefit to me for that because I learned Mandarin. I wanted to learn, and my ability to learn language was pretty good. So I did. That, at the time I was studying with Wang Weilun, I did not speak Cantonese. I couldn't. I didn't know how. When I was studying with Professor Liu, I initially could not speak in Mandarin. I developed that skill very quickly. And it was partly because I developed the skill. I developed my language skills. That I was able to gain some of the insights to Qigong, Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, and all of the other internal arts. If I did not have some introduction to the language and to the differences in meanings, I would still have a lot of confusion about what is Qigong. I would. In practice and in study, the idea that we don't know everything. I don't. There are a lot of people who know way more about Chinese martial arts than I do. I know more about Chinese martial arts than quite a few people too. So that placement, where am I on the scheme, and where am I in the total scheme of things? People know quite a bit. They're experts. They study. They've learned. They know the language inside and out. They read all the classics, or most of them, or some of them at least, in the original, and studied and practiced. Those people know more than me. Absolutely. Person that learned from video and took a couple online courses? No. No. So, asking, what are you teaching? Teacher should be able to explain that a little bit and should be able to explain it at a foundation level as well as at a more advanced level. I want to help people understand what this is, not shut them out. That sense of bringing people in, coaching, teaching, sharing experience, as well as that knowledge and understanding, is something that a student should look for. What does the teacher know? What am I going to learn? Who's teaching, right? Who's teaching? How do they teach? What do they teach? What qualifies this person to teach? How did this person learn whatever it is that they're teaching? How did they develop their skills? Ask you may decide that the person who has a short, fun, sort of like kind of thing is interesting, and you want to do that. You want to learn something, you want to get serious about what you're learning, paying attention to what it is I'm going to learn. What is this? Does it have any background? Is there anything more besides this one person who's doing this? I can point you to a whole bunch of people. that sense of continuity and community is something that I looked for in my own study, and it's something that I've tried to create in these classes and in my in-person classes when I teach in person as well. It's that sense of continuous learning that none of my teachers, none of the people that I studied with ever quit learning. To the day he passed, as far as I understand, Huang Wenlin was teaching and learning. Professor Liu is retired. He still teaches, and he's still, as far as I know, he's still learning a few things. That lifetime of learning and continuing to practice, because it is beneficial, because it creates another level of understanding that we have of ourselves. That's part of what we want to gain from practice, is that understanding of ourselves. As we develop those skills, we develop a greater understanding of everything else as well. In Wudang Qigong, wrap this up, we have 18 sets. Today I covered the first set, and I covered the idea of introducing Qigong. Qigong! What's this Qigong stuff? To someone who doesn't know, who hasn't met this thing before. It's new. It's different. How do I begin to understand this new and different thing that I've never encountered before? I hope these sessions, this whole series, as I wrap things up, this session, from the perspective of the student, and I'll finish that thought, I hope these sessions will be helpful and will also help to connect all of the things that I've taught up to now through what I'm teaching in these sessions, so that as a person starts to learn, they gain a greater sense of how to learn, how to study. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about how to teach. Sunday is more focused on what to teach, philosophy, and what goes on behind what we're doing in terms of the art itself and in terms of ethics and general philosophy. Thank you for being here.